Welcome everyone, I'm Benji. Today we are going to talk about something super important when we create our games. Data. Almost all games will have some sort of data, and generally we can speed up the type of data like the chart we see here. They're either pair related or server related, need to be saved or don't need to be saved. Let's talk about them one by one. Since everyone should be familiar with Adopt.Me, let's use that game as an example. A pair-related but not saved data would be pairs' current tasks, like go to school, feed your pets, and all those. These are only used in-game and will not save when the players leave the game. Then for the server-related but not saved, one example is the in-game day and night. It's there to help trigger events but not saved when the server shut down. Now what about pair-related and saved? These are the data that's saved for each pair in the data store, so that when the pair rejoin the game next time, these data will be loaded from the data store. There are so many examples for this type, like the amount of money, the item in the backpacks, and the house they bought, all sort of stuff that will follow the pairs no matter how many times they leave and rejoin the game. Then the last type is server related and saved. These are the data that's saved globally across all servers, also with the use of data stores. For example, any global leaderboard, or a list of banner pair, or history of all pair transactions. We'll break down this series about data into multiple sessions. Today we will focus on how to create the data and how to manage the in-game leaderboard. Usually I will group all the data into two centralized areas, one for server related, one for pair related. This is not necessary and it's all up to you, but I will find this is more organized and I recommend you to do the same. For server data, you can put the folder in server script surface or server storage. These folders are only accessible from the server, and they will be protected from a hacking script trying to directly change the data values. Then you can create a couple folders to separate the in-game data and save the data. Again, you don't necessarily follow what I do, but this just to help me to organize all the data I need and I know where to find them. When you create the values, you have two options. You can create values by adding them directly to the folder, or create them by using a script. Let's say we want to create a current hours in-game value in the in-game folder as an integer to store the hours, and then a current minutes in-game value is there as an integer again to store the minute. We can just add them in like this. Or if you don't want to create it like this, we can add a script under the save data. Let's call it CreateServerData. And in there, we create the data with the function called NewGameSetup and put in the code to create them one by one. Then all you need to do is to call this function once the server starts. For the simplicity of testing, I'm just calling the function in the scripts. Once the values are created, they are shared across all server scripts, and their values can be retrieved and changed by all server scripts. For pairs data, since the specific pairs folder will only be created once the pairs join the server, we will have nowhere to just add them, so we are going to use the script like we did before. Let's create a script called CreatePlayerData and put it under server script surface, and create a function called NewGameSetup. In the function, we're going to create three folders. One for the in-game data, one for the saved data, one for leaderstat. The name of this folder can be whatever you want, except the leaderstat folder. It has to be spelled exactly the same with all small letters for it to work properly in-game. After we create the folders, let's create some values inside each of them. Let's say I want to have the level, experience, and amount of gold stored for each pair, so I will create these three values in the saved data folder. Then I want to have a session page time to keep track of how long the pair is online in the current session. I want this to store in the in-game data folder, which means I'm not going to save the value of it when the pair leaves the game. Then we move on to leaderstats. Before we create the values in this folder, just to remember, every value you put in this folder will be displayed and ranked across all pairs in the server. Try to focus on keys ones only, or your leaderboard will be very bulky. So what if I decide to display the level and how much gold the player has as leader stats? Here you actually have two options. One is just taking the level and gold value from the saved data folder and put them here. The good thing about this method is you don't have to make extra values and pass the numbers around. But the bad thing about this method is you need to remember to handle these two values in the leader stat folder when you save and load the data stores. There's another way to handle this, which also is my preferred option, is to leave the level and goals value in the saved data folder and create an extra level and goals value in the leader stat folder. And create two functions to copy the level and goal from the saved data folder to leader stat whenever the value has changed. Obviously, the benefit of this is we don't have to remember there are some leaders that need to be data stored. Everything need to be data stores are stored in the saved data folder and nothing else. This makes your data system way easier to manage when the game getting bigger and bigger. But how are we going to pass the value from saved data folder to leader stat folder? After we have created an onPair add event to trigger whenever the pair is added into the game, we're gonna call this NewGameSetup function to create all the folders and variables. Then, this is how we pass the value from saved data to leaderstat. We're gonna connect the value change function to copy the level and goal values from saved data folder to leaderstat folder whenever they have changed. Now let's test it out and see if all these values are created and working properly. First of all, you can see that the leaderboard has the two values we have put in, level and goal. Then we're going to change this test environment to server side, and you can see these variables being created in the server. And let's see if we change the value of level and goal, will that change the leaderboard? Then we're going to flip it back to client and see. There we go, everything is working. But for now, none of the data is saved when I leave the game. But no worry, we're going to talk about how to save and load these data using data store in our next video. And as usual, I'll put the scripts I've used in the description below. That's it for today, and I'll see you guys next time.